Live with the community. This is a Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is August 15th. We are officially halfway or almost halfway through the month. Wow, where is this year going? Time flies when you're having fun. Well, let's go. Let's talk about the agenda. We're going to get the latest updates on the community. We're going to talk about things like PowerShell and Microsoft Teams Toolkit. We're going to see some latest updates on script samples, team samples, Power Platform samples, and then, of course, everybody's favorite time, picture time. So get those fantastic faces ready and those cameras ready to go. And then we will focus our attention on our amazing presenters of the day. Ejaz is here. He's going to talk about leveraging messaging extensions to build Copilot plugin with SharePoint list content. Wow, love the Better Together story. Stuart's back. He's going to be talking about streamlining user access to apps using Power Apps for Makers Connector. And of course, one and only Chris Kent is here to talk about list formatting tips and tricks. Can't wait to see what he has in store for us. But first, let's talk about some resources that are available to each and every one of you. So if you're new to the community, these might all be new. But we want to remind everybody that we have them available. They are absolutely free. So we'll start with our Microsoft Community Learning videos. This is our YouTube channel. Absolutely recommend you subscribe to get alerts of the latest videos that get dropped. We have one going out every single day. We've got our LinkedIn group for discussions, open source tooling and initiatives like PNP.js and CLI for Microsoft 365, and of course our plethora of not only pinatas, but samples. Team samples, SPFX samples, Power Platform, list formatting, the list, see what I did there, goes on and on and on. All available to you absolutely free. You only need to remember one little URL, ak.ms/community/home will give you access to all these amazing things. Now, again, you may be going, another new YouTube channel, come on. Nope, don't worry. This is just a renamed one. We've renamed it. It was Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community, which you all likely know and love. And if you're not subscribed, then please do that. But we renamed it to Microsoft Community Learning. It encompasses all of the technologies. So as we start bringing in things like Copilot, Dynamics, and all the other variety of technologies we use, it is open-ended and welcoming to everyone. So you can check it out at ak.ms/community/YouTube. Now, if you're on this call, well, we hope you like community calls. We do too. So we've got our weekly Microsoft 365 and Power Platforms Microsoft speakers call. This happens every single Tuesday, but it's on a summer break. It's sitting on a beach somewhere enjoying a pina colada. I don't know, but it's going to be back in September 3rd. So just a few weeks away. So be ready for that. Go get that on your calendar. We've got our monthly Power Platform call. This happens next week, by the way, so be ready for that. Got some awesome things in store there. We've got our Office add-ins, and of course, our sibling bi-weekly calls. The one you're on now is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community, and next week, and these rotate every other week, Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. You can get access to all these calls, and we recommend you download the invites, add them to your calendar. I call these calls a crystal ball into the what's now, what's new, what's next for Microsoft. We're seeing what everybody in the world is doing with the technology that we all use every day, and sometimes we're seeing it in different ways than we even thought possible. Well worth your time, well worth your investment, and it's a lot of fun because you get to hang out with us, and we love you. All right, now as you're watching today, you may think, I got some cool stuff to show off. And maybe you're thinking, is my stuff cool enough to show off? Absolutely. We welcome everyone to present on these calls. Now, you've likely built something, maybe a utility script or some sort of demo. We want you to show it off because, as we mentioned, everybody uses the technologies in different ways. If you need some support and you want to get buddied up, we can handle that too. We welcome everyone. All we need you to do is fill out this form, ak.ms/community/request/demo, and we will ensure that we get you scheduled. We'll get back to you and let us know if you need to buddy up with someone. We'll take care of that as well. Now, if you're looking at all these samples and you want some guidance and you're thinking, well, I got cool samples to share, I just don't know how. Well, Sharing is Caring is here, everybody. It is our hands-on initiative and program in the community to provide guidance on how you can get more involved in the community. So next Monday, less than just a few days away, August 19th at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, we've got our general samples contributor session. This is where we're going to walk you through contributing to GitHub. So if you're unfamiliar with that hub of Gits, that Git of hubs, what is all these things like forks and blame and raw and pull requests? We're going to explain it to you. You're going to actually do a pull request, which means you're going to make a contribution to the community. And guess what? If you sign up for our recognition program, you're going to get a badge. So it's absolutely free. It's safe space. We don't record it, so feel free to ask any and all questions. Go and register at ak.ms/sharingiscaring. And as I mentioned, you get a badge. So you're thinking, what is that badge? Well, it is powered by our community recognition program. So we are showcasing your contributions. They are powered by Credly. You get these official and accredited badges. So here's our 2024 badge for community contributors. I've been seeing that one fly around the socials lately. And just as you may have seen, or maybe not have seen, but you're seeing now, we've got brand new badges coming up for Promptember and Promptober, Prompt Pro. Woo, it's all about prompts for everybody. So the Prompt Pro is going to be available all year long, but those two last badges, Promptember and Promptober, special edition, you can only get them in the months of Promptember and Promptober. So get opted in. It's absolutely free. We cover the cost 100% for you to join this. No cost to you at all. So all you got to do is go to ak.ms/community/recognition and get opted in. Thank you big time to April Dunham for working with me on getting these done, and we're excited to see what you have to offer. Now, we got a few events coming up, everybody, by the way, so we want to make sure that you are aware of some opportunities. These are some things like the Power Platform Conference. So we're going to have a community lounge there, super user panel, round tables, and guess what? You can volunteer at the conference. All you got to do is go to ak.ms/pbcc_volunteer. We'll put the link in the chat there for you in a moment, but you fill out that form and you let us know that you'd like to be involved and like to help out, and it's a wonderful way to learn and meet others in the community, collaborate, and show the love. We've got a little concept here to show you what that might look like in the conference. So you can see there's a variety of areas and opportunities to interact, lots of ways to collaborate. So we welcome and are excited to see all of you at the conference. All right. Let's talk about some project-specific updates. I mentioned those prompts. We've got some dedicated prompt library. So prompt for Copilot. Welcome contributors. Again, this is one of those repos that you will absolutely get a badge for. So if you've got a great sample, again, it could be for Microsoft Copilot, Copilot for Microsoft 365. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Then absolutely get involved and go submit that ak.ms/pnp-prompt-library. And again, earn yourself a badge. And we want to recognize Shushti for our prompt of the week, listing all the candidates for which I took the interview in a tabular format with a date interview, candidate name and position. Kindly refer to the last 6 months emails Outlook to get the candidate's name. So really wonderful way for us to kind of share, the open-endedness, some opportunities on how we can create these prompts. Sometimes having the world as our oyster is a little bit overwhelming. We're not quite sure what to ask. So Shushti, great job. Thank you so much. All right, let's talk about some PowerShell. Lots of folks are on vacation, so you got me covering all these slides. I know, I'm sorry. But v2.5.0 is released. Go check it out. If you're not using PNP PowerShell, then I guarantee you are missing out. 23.3 million downloads, 140 million commandlets execute per day. Not wrong, everybody. It's a wonderful way to utilize the tools and interact with the tenants that we use each and every day. I know Todd Clint is excited. So we absolutely invite you to go take a look at that. You can check it out. I'll put the link in the chat. Of course, you can go into GitHub PNP and find the PowerShell repo there as well. All right, let's move on to Fly Away PNP PowerShell Teams Toolkit. And let's see, is John Miller here? John Miller is here. Let me make him a presenter. John, you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, absolutely. Take it away,
Nice.
my man.
Thanks. Okay, so same updates as last week, but if you haven't been there for a while, we have 5.8 released in VS Code. So there's a lot of cool stuff in there for working with custom copilots or bots powered by AI. 17.11 in VS is released now. So we have a few updates in there. Most importantly, there are some new features to let you easily add these Teams app projects to existing projects. So we have this empty project now, which just has the Teams stuff. So it's a little easier to add it to existing projects. And you can always use a CLI. So we have a lot of quality of life improvements. I think the latest is actually a couple revs above 3.0. So there's some improvements there. And we're still working on custom copilots, plugins, declarative copilots. There's some new stuff there you can read in the blog we just released recently. Goes over all the updates we've had over the past few months. And if you want to chat with me about any of it, use that link, TTK chat. We'll schedule some time on my calendar. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Great stuff. All right. Paul Bullock's out on vacation as well. So script samples is another opportunity to contribute and utilize these tools. So it covers the gamut, everybody of different types of scripts across CLI for Microsoft 365, PnP PowerShell, all kinds of stuff. Again, this is a wonderful way to get involved. There's 3 levels of badges for everyone as well. Paul is a wonderful maintainer, very welcoming. So definitely check that out because we've all got those utility scripts. And so likely we're using them to do something or another that's beneficial for us. And you may think this is just a small little thing, but it's a big thing when you share it with everybody. So don't hesitate, go check them out and contribute. And if you're not sure how to contribute, well, sharing is caring. Okay, let's talk about team samples. Bob is out today, but we wanted to talk about the transport for London Line API-based message extension. Shows how to reuse a simple public API within Teams, which is really, really cool. Thank you, Anoop, for that. We really appreciate everybody pitching in and contributing to the community. We would not, again, be with what we have without you all. So thank you. Put that link in the chat. You can check out more at ak.ms/msgext-api-tfl status. I know, it's like, how do you not remember that? Okay, and last but not least, Power Platform samples. So we've got tons of these: Power Apps templates, components, connectors, Power Effects, Automate Flows, BI, and Power Platform prompts. So there's a dedicated Power Platform prompts repo. This is the one where you're going to get those specialty badges, so definitely check them out. You can get access to all these at ak.ms/Power Platform samples, or if you want to go directly to the prompts, you can go to ak.ms/Power Platform prompts. Links are in the chat. All right, let's start getting those cameras ready, everybody. So let's move into together mode, and I've got, if you want to turn your cameras on, we'll get that set up here. All right, excellent. See everybody coming in, looking good. All right, Bess is showing us how it's done. All right. Everybody, there got a few more seats, yeah. Let's go. All right, a little more room, everybody. A little more room if you want to. I see April looking fantastic. All right, let's start the recording here. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's wave to everybody in the community. Get those smiles going. You look great, wonderful. Great to see you all. We really appreciate everybody and all that you're doing in the community. This is wonderful. Thank you so, so much. All right, well, with that, let's move on to our fantastic presenters of the day. We're going to start with Ejaz. He's talking about leveraging messaging extensions to build Copilot plugin in with SharePoint list content. Ejaz, you want to take it away?
Hi. Yeah, thanks, David. Let me share my screen, guys.
Excellent.
Just let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yep, looks great. I see it there.
Right. So, hi everybody. My name is Ejaz. I'm one of the first-time MVP. Thanks for the thank you to the whole community for all the support. I'm a developer and architect in a company called Advania UK. And here's my LinkedIn and Twitter or the X account. Please get in touch if you have any question. So today we're looking into a topic of building a custom Copilot plugin, and we'll see how we can use the SharePoint list as a backend and what's involved. We'll look into the presentation, a few slides, and then we can look at the code as well and the demo. Any question, just put into the chat. I'll try to answer. So before we look into building the plugin, we need to kind of need to know where the plugin sits. So they are part of the Copilot extension family. Now we call it Copilot extensions umbrella. So we have a connectors as a Microsoft Graph connectors. We have a plugins, and we also have our your Copilot comes under this umbrella as well. So this is what we're looking at today is the plugin here under the Copilot extension. So now, if you go further deep dive into the plugin, there are different types of plugins. We have a message extension plugin. We have an API plugin, and then you have a Copilot Studio based plugin. So today we are looking on this part of the world, which is the message extension based plugin. Now, what we are building today, we're building a Microsoft Copilot product catalog plugin. So basically what we have here is we have a SharePoint list and the backend. where I can show you the backend quickly. So probably not the one. So you can see here, this is the product and services. So most of the the IT provider or solution provider, they have their own product and services they offer. So they have a little catalog. So what's the product name they offer, description, revenue type, and service area, service group. So I mean, these are just examples, the sample data which I've generated using the AI, but the real data will be different. But you get an idea, like every company who provides services, they have some sorts of catalog, like we provide these services. So I take that idea and created a SharePoint list with the sample data. Now, so if I go back to the slide. Sorry. So now what basically is going to help we have a centralized data. We're going to search this backend data with the natural language search. So you don't have to kind of have some filter on the UI you have to select, but you can just simply ask question using the natural language. It will boost productivity because you don't know what you don't need to know exactly what you want to ask. You're asking natural language question, and then the data will come straight into your teams where you are. So you don't have to go to SharePoint list and filter and for searching the data. Then seamless team integration as a key features. So if I go into next, and what's the in terms of the architecture of the app, what's it look like? So so where we are is if you look at this side, so this is the Teams client. User asks a question, and what happens is it goes to product and services plugin, and then from there there is something magic happen behind the scene, which is a user prompt converted into automatically into transformed the intent, the user intent, like what he wanted to ask, and that basically give you some query parameters, and then you can use that query parameter and pass that information to your backend. So in my case, I've used as an Azure function, which is taking those user prompt into the query parameter, and then taking those query parameter, and via the Azure function, I'm calling the SharePoint list, and then from there on, I'm sending this data back to the Copilot and then your Teams app, Teams client. So before we start, what we need to build this plugin, Copilot plugin, if you haven't tried it already, so I've used the Visual Studio Code. So you need Node.js 18, which I've used. Visual Studio Code, you need Teams Toolkit, Microsoft account, of course, and then you need a Microsoft Copilot license, SharePoint list with sample data, and then Azure Function app for the backend. Now, this backend could be anything. For the simplicity, I use Azure Function app and the SharePoint list as a backend. So that could be anything. Okay, so let's go and look at the demo and look what's look like. So I've go to this way. I did some searches before. So let me just say. Now, before I do that, what I want to show you the picture first. So when we first add an app, added this plugin, let me share my. So we see, so I got everything ready for you, so don't have to wait. So that's why I took a screenshot. So we get this as a prompt, like this is my app, which is a messaging extension. So one thing I want to point it is the description, because that is really key in the if you want your Copilot to use your plugin. So make sure write the detailed description about your plugin, what it does, what is exactly going to search. Give some example. You can see I have some example as well. So write the detailed description. Then the Copilot would know from it needs to call your plugin based on your prompt. So there is a whole new there's a lots of documentation around how to write the description for the Copilot plugin. So please check that out. Now we clicked in add, so we added, and then what you have to do is click on this little icon of the bottom right, click on plugin, and then you enable your plugin. At the moment is enabled, product catalog plugin is enabled, and I can go and add some. So let's say I can see get all product related to Power BI. So if I go and search this, so now at the moment what's happening here is communicate is found out it needs to use our plugin, which is my plugin. So I didn't mention in my prompt that use my plugin. I just said I need a all product, even though I have enabled. So might be you have more than one enabled. So plugin. So I just asked, use this, give me the product related to Power BI. It knows from there my it needs to go and call my plugin, and then he extracted the query parameters which he needs to extract based on this intent, and then pass to my Azure function backend, and then Azure function did the job of bringing the data back to the Copilot. So another thing you'd see here is the little like numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what basically this is where adaptive card play into play. So if I move my mouse on the 1, and this is the data coming from this is showing this data as in adaptive card. So and you can also see also has a related document as well, because I have a to list which looked up to the related document as well. So when I move this one, so this is the UI is I'm building with custom adaptive card. So you can use adaptive card to build custom UI. Right, in the same way, and if I scroll down, you'd see if you are in the developer mode, I think you if 1- or 2- you put developer and -on, and it will it turn on the developer mode, and then you can see how is finding and first enable the plugin, how is matching with your which function is matching, which is defined in your manifest file, and then executing, and then what was the result of that execution. And you can see we got the 200 and we got the result back. So it can see how is basically based on your prompt is selecting your plugin or not plugin. That's the benefit of the developer mode on. Right, so that's how it worked. You can so far, and I can go and do one more prompt we can show here. I said, show me all product where revenue type is training services. So you can see here, he's now bring me different result back, which is where the revenue type column is training server, which is this one. So currently I'm using like a 4 or 5 different parameters based on the columns, product name, description, revenue type, or service area kind of thing. But you know, you can build as many. I think we can build like 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly how many, but we can have a multiple parameters in manifest for the Copilot plugin. Right. So now that's how it works from the UI side of things. So if let's go back to the code and how it works from what we need to do from the code point of view. So quickly, first of all, we need to prepare the manifest, which is most important. So we go to app, package, manifest file. So again, this description, short description, full description, very important, right? Detailed description and with the examples. So it will help Copilot to find your plugin and call your methods. So then here is messaging extension, usual stuff. But then here, because we can have a multiple parameters now, so you can see I've defined the product name as one of the parameter, and then description about, and there's a semantic description as well. I think it's if the semantic description is not available, then it will rely on the description. So I normally put the semantic description as well. Specifically, I want same as another parameter I've used is product description, revenue type, service area owner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what happening is when you type something, it's basically your convert your intent, convert into any of these parameters. So this is your revenue type. This is the product description or service area or the service area. So I can use, and I'm using those parameters to search against my SharePoint list. There's nothing else here apart from that. And then it's just the normal, if I go to service, my app. So here the magic is happen when you, after you hit enter, after you send the query, we then extract the parameters, which has already been given to us, like for product name, that's what user is asking. For the description or revenue type, this is what user is asking for revenue type. So I'd get all the parameters and then pass this parameter to my Azure function, which is in my environment variable. Then I'm just once get the result back, and I'm just using my adaptive card, which is product adaptive card. So that's what adaptive card which you saw earlier. So that is on that side. And then in the backend with the API, I have Azure function. So I don't want to go too much into detail, like, simple Azure function with PNP.js, PNP core .NET setup. So you can see here how we set the authentication, usual stuff. But what I want to show you in the SharePoint service, so here I'm building the camel query. So based on my parameters, I'm building that camel query and searching the SharePoint list and bringing the data back. So so going back to my my presentation. So at the end, I have so there's few references. So please check out. There's a dev sample already. Sample has been submitted. So it's available, and that's a blog post related which I wrote about this one. So please check out. That's all from me.
Awesome stuff, Ejaz. Very, very cool. Love how we're seeing all the variety of ways that we can integrate Copilot into our daily work streams to make our lives easier. So really appreciate you showing how to connect all these things that we use every single day to make it better in our productivity. So thank you. Excellent job. All right, let's move on to Stuart Baxter. He's going to talk about streamlining user access to apps using Power Apps for Makers Connector. Stuart, take it on over.
Thank you, David. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so thanks for the introduction, David. So a little bit of information about me just before we get started. So I'm Stuart Baxter, as David said. I am Power Platform Lead at DigPacks based in the UK. We are a healthcare partner with Microsoft, and we work primarily with NHS trusts. I am co-founder at Scottish Power Platform User Group, or SPUG, alongside Charlie Phipps-Bennett, who many of you will know, and also Josh Gillis and Rani Colhoun. I've been a Microsoft Biz Apps MVP since last year. It's got renewed for the first time just a few weeks ago. And one of my favourite things to do is contribute to the community on calls like this. So today we're going to talk about, as we said, super simple sharing in Canvas apps. So I'm going to go through a few little concepts that we're going to need to understand before we get started. Anyone who's been following me on LinkedIn and things will know my approach to sharing security roles by including them associated with a team. So the first action we want to look at today is the Dataverse Relate action, where we can pass in a record, for example, user.teams, team member association, which we see down the bottom there, and we pass in the associated record. So just to make this super duper clear, I've got two variables set in my code down there, set global selected user to DRP dropdown select user.selected. We then have our team, GBL selected team from dropdown select team.selected. And that is going to relate our two parts here. Ignore this little block of code here. Broke my own #1 rule of writing comments and put a comment in that makes absolutely no sense. Ignore that for now. But yeah, really simple action, the relate action, selected user.teams, and then the team you want to associate with it. Anyone who's followed me on LinkedIn and stuff will have seen this concept before. Just wanted to bring this to the table for anyone who hasn't. So it's one thing sharing with that team. We also need to give the user access to the app. And for this, we can use the Power Platform for Makers Connector. This is an out-of-the-box Microsoft connector with some really powerful actions to help makers. And some of the key ones we're going to go through today is get apps and also edit app row assignment. We'll start by going through the get app action. We can provide an app name and it returns the app GUID. Worth mentioning, it's get apps plural. So when we search for this, it's going to give us all of them. We then want to filter by properties.displayName to our app called Sharing is Caring. And really, really strangely, the GUID that we want back isn't .id, it's .name. So just to walk everyone through that super quickly, we'll set global app GUID to the first record returned by a filter on Power Apps for makers.getapps.value, where properties.displayName equals sharing is caring, and we want to return back the name property from there. Store that in our variable that we're going to use later on. Our second one we need to know about here is the edit app row assignment action. We pass in an app that we want to share and an object containing some details about the user, and the outcome there is that we'll share the app with the user. So just walking through that from the previous screen, we're passing in GBL app GUID, and we then pass through this object here, starting with put. And within our object, we have some properties, our role name, which is can view for accessing the app as a user. You can also pass in can edit, which would give someone co-ownership of an app. We have the capabilities area, which isn't relevant for this particular demonstration. We do have to pass in an empty object if we are not using that though. We then have notify share target option. We can pass in notify, or we can pass in an empty string. If we pass in notify, the user will get an email at the end to say Stuart Baxter has shared this app with you. And last but not least, we pass in our principal object here from the relate action that we looked at before, GBL selected user, .primary email in our email field, Azure AD object ID from our ID field. We could also pass them in from the Entra ID table, passing in slightly different values, but from a Dataverse perspective, we would use primary email and Azure AD object ID. We can pass in type. For the purpose of this demo, we're doing user, but you can also pass in group as well. So if you want to share your app with an Entra ID group in this way, you certainly could. It's not a problem at all. And last but not least, tenant ID. You will notice there that is passed in as null. And this is a little trick I've found out. In the past, I have stored the tenant ID in an environment variable. That then involves getting that environment variable, getting the value, passing it in, and it works just fine if you pass in null. So let's not go to all the effort of getting something that we don't need. In this case, we're just going to pass in null. So let's pull it all together and see what that looks like. Appreciate that's quite small on the screen there, so just to walk everyone through, we are going to set a variable for the selected user from our drop-down on the first screen there, set another variable for our selected team, relate that team with that user. We're then going to get the GUID for the app through Power Apps for makers.getapps.value, properties.displayName equals sharing is caring, and last but not least, we're going to pass all that together into Power Apps for Makers edit app row assignment, global app.name, our object that we spoke about a moment ago, and the outcome will look something just like this. So we'll drop it here, and we'll edit our sharing is caring app. Oh, we should have got things ready just before this, just be a moment. Okay. So we've got a really, really simple app here called Sharing is Caring. We are being asked to wait, it will just be a second, hopefully. Hopefully not much longer.
We can just play some emotional music while we all gear up and ready for your...
All good, ready to go. Thanks, David. So I'm going to pop to our sharing screen, and we have our drop-down select user. This is just a list of users. I use the user lookup view because that contains the columns that I need. You can use any view you like though. Second drop down here, that's just our teams. And if we pop into play in our app, we're going to select test user. We can see on the right here, test user doesn't have any teams. Strangely, I don't have any teams either. That's fine though. So we can pop in here and we can select a team. Let's go with our contact and account user just for simplicity. And we're going to share. And just like that, we've got our team shared. We've got our security role, also called contact and account user, already shared with that team. Anyone who's been following me on LinkedIn and things will know that's how I do teams. And moment of truth, we're going to pop into here and we'll give this a little refresh. And all going well, we should, in just a moment, have an email telling us we have access. And good old Outlook web app is going very, very slowly. Let's have a wee look in here. We're going to close our app for now, just for demonstration purposes. See, waiting on an email. Oh, we have a ping. Here we are. So just like going into the app and manually sharing, you can trigger that automated email. That was through our notify part that we looked at. And just for the purpose of making sure everything all looks okay, we don't have to do this. This is just for our demo. I'm going to pop it into share, and we can see test user has access as a user. And in Power Platform Admin Center, we can open up test user, and we can see that team contact and account user has also been shared as well through a relate action. And that is the end of my demo. It's nothing particularly complicated. Just going to bring this one up on screen. If anyone has any other questions around implementing security and so on within your apps, by all means reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I've also included there the documentation for the Power Apps for App Maker Connector as well. One thing that's really elegant about this solution, and where I really enjoy this, is providing that you have the correct security permissions, you don't have to be a system admin to press this button within our sharing is caring apps here. A few points to mention. You definitely need access to append to users and to teams, because effectively that's relating those two together. If you are putting someone into a team that has a security role, you must have more permissions than that user. So a little example, let's say we've got our sharing is caring app and you have 3 security roles in there. You have sharer that has basic access. You have application admin that has slightly more access. And then you have system admin at the top of that, a regular standard system administrator role. System administrators could give access to app admins. App admins have to have the same permissions or more than sharers, for example. One quirk I did notice as well, you do also need access to read permission from the, now which entity is it? Queues. I haven't quite figured out why you need that permission yet. I am diving into that a bit deeper. I will have a blog post coming in the next maybe 2 or 3 days, fully explaining all the security permissions you need. But the key thing to mention is you don't necessarily need system administrator. And that brings me to the end of my demo. Any questions anyone has, do drop them in the chat, or as I said, reach out to me on LinkedIn. And that's
awesome,
all from me.
Stuart.
Thank you.
Really, really great stuff. Yeah. This is super, super cool. I love again how you're just utilizing multiple technologies to collaborate, especially, but also make things more efficient. So really great job.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, it's time for the Sultan of Stallions, the Emperor of Equestrians, the one and only Chris Kent. Show us what you got.
Hi, everybody.
Chris Kent.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Wow. Okay, well.
Technology works.
Right. Technologies. All right, I'm on an Xbox headset. I couldn't get my regular one to work, so there we go. All right.
Sounds okay.
Yeah. Woo. All right, so hey everybody, I'm Chris, and we're going to talk about some exciting list formatting related type things. Really exciting. I am going to show in a few things I have shown before, but I'm going to show it in a slightly different way. in terms of some tooling and how you can set that up. We've had some questions related to the SP formatter, JSONify setup I've had, also an update in JSONify I want to show off. So I'm going to show off some of that and kind of an advanced setup for you. And we'll get going. But first, I will just remind you of what I'm talking about when I say SP formatter. Right, so this is something that's available through PNP. It's developed by Sergey Sergeev, right? So it's two-part extension, right? So there's two parts to it. There's an Edge extension, which I'll show off first. And then for the advanced scenario, there's a VS Code extension, which we'll take a look at. It's going to do really cool things like provide much better IntelliSense by swapping out for an extended schema, right? It's going to provide live preview right on the browser and so on. So this is something that if you're writing formats, you're going to want to use this right away. Okay, so let's go take a look at it, and then we'll jump into some other things. Back to our Common Horses site here. And we've got ourselves a letters list where we are storing some letters that the horses are writing, right? We've got some automation around that. These are some form letters that they like to send out, right? Either way, this part doesn't matter so much as that we have some opportunities to apply some formats. So we're going to do that. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say I already have the extension installed, right? So this is the extension, and we'll pop in some links to that sometime here in the chat, but they're also at the end. So you can get a screenshot of all of those links. But the idea is I install this to Edge. I can also install it to Chrome. I'm just demoing an Edge because this is a Microsoft call after all, right? But it works on either one. So you just get that installed. And once you've got that installed, you'll find it in your extensions over here, SP formatter, right? And you can turn that on, right? So I've got that enabled. And we'll go from there. So what happens is I come here, column settings, and I format my column. And when I go to advanced mode, I get this enhanced formatter is enabled, right? That allows me to do a few things. One thing, right, I can turn it on and off, right? And you'll see, I've got this nice little thing here. I can make it a little bigger. Ooh, so I have it even more writing room, right? Because this is a little cramped if I'm trying to write full format. For what I'm trying to write, that's fine. But you'll see I get this nice IntelliSense, right? So I can say my Elm type, all right, is say a div. Right, so let's, ooh. Well, we'll pretend, I'm not sure what happened there. Let's try that again. Let's format that column again. All right, let's go down here and we'll say Elm type. Right. I've got something going on with my IntelliSense here. All right, div, and we'll say our text content, in this case, is at current field. Let's just preview that. All right, so let's turn that back on so we can see it really happen here. So what I did there, right, all I did was I took away that option to see more or not, right? So we can take that off and you can see what I mean. Right, that guy that is collapsing it down, right? So I'm just a very basic format that allows me to see the full text of the letter. Wow! But the idea here, I wanted to point out one thing here, is when you do SP formatter, you'll notice this guy right here, this giant schema link goes away. And that is a little confusing. The reason that's going away is because it's being swapped out behind the scenes for an enhanced schema, right? So that schema has a lot better support for some of the properties and so on, so that you get nice IntelliSense there, right? So you can see the at current field, right? Might be, I'm not getting my IntelliSense, but you get better IntelliSense. Just trust me on it. All right, and you get the idea. You can edit all that stuff. So that is the browser extension that I wanted to show you there. Okay, so that's great. We're going to be using that more in just a moment. I'll save that because that's beautiful, and we'll just keep that going. But now I wanted to talk about some other tools, right? So there is a VS Code side to that. In fact, the easiest way to find that is when you go to the SP formatter here, use VS Code, check out the VS Code extension, right? And you click on that link and you'll go right to it. For our purposes, we're just going to go directly to the repo, and I want to talk about the samples, right? So this is great that you could do this, and if you happen to know exactly what you want to write, hey, that's great. Most of us are going to start with some samples, right? And so I'm just going to go to aka.ms/list-formatting, right, like that. And that's going to take me to this site, and this site has all of the samples and everything listed on it. It's got groupings and all their tools listed and so on. But for our purpose today, I'm just going to click on GitHub up here, right? So that's going to take me right to the GitHub repo. And this is where everything's stored. Now, if I wanted to edit this, I want to take a look at some of the stuff. The easiest way to do that is get a GitHub account. They're free. And once you've got one, you can hit this fork button here. And for some of these things, again, I'm going to highly recommend that sharing is caring session. David and the team there do a really great job of kind of demystifying some of this GitHub junk. But for our purposes, we're going to create a fork. I've already created one. All that does is it creates a copy of the repo over in your stuff, right? So now it's at my link, right? Now I've got a list formatting repo. I can see it's up to date. I can always resync it if I need to get any changes back and forth. But the point is I can come in here and I can start customizing samples. I can create new samples. I create my own folders, whatever I want, and I've got access to everything. Now I can come here to code, right? And if you want to just download it to your machine, you can. Just download it as a zip and don't worry about it, right? But you can also say open with GitHub Desktop, which is what I like to use to manage things. But for our purposes today, we're going to do something a little bit different, which is code spaces. So code spaces is basically a virtual machine with a nice VS Code front end for you. You can work with that. Everybody gets so much per month free. If you've got a pro account, you get even more, and you can pay for even more if you want. I'm sure they'll be happy to take your money, but everybody can get a free one. I've gone ahead and set up one. If you haven't yet, you just hit this plus button, and you get some options. I've created the very basic, very low resources expert barnacle. That's the name they assigned to me. I'm going to click on that. You'll notice I get a nice VS Code editor right here in the browser. Right, it's going to load up. It's going to load up some of my extensions because I've got synchronization turned on in Visual Studio. So if you haven't done that yet, you want to do that. All you do is you click on this little gear and settings sync. And when you do that, all of your extensions, your themes, right, all of that stuff is going to come over nicely, even here in code spaces, which is cool because again, I'm still in Edge, right? Wowee. And in fact, you can tell it's got my settings because it moved everything over to the right because I like it that way because I come from the old school Visual Studio days, right? But, you know, so yours might be on the left, just as an FYI. But here I've got that whole repo with all those samples, right? And I can easily browse them, right? So you can see I've got one open here. That's cool. I can see all this stuff. You know, let's turn on word wrap because there you go. Now we can see it a little better. And so on. That's neat. Now I'm going to show you a couple extensions you might want to install here. So the first extension I want to show you, right? If we come down here, so these are the extensions, is VS Code Pets. Oh yeah, so I did not make this extension, but I highly recommend it. But I did contribute to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at that, and you'll see what that adds is this little VS Code pet right here. So the default is a cat. Get out of here, cat. We don't need no cat. Bye. All right, instead we're going to add ourselves, you might have guessed it, a horse. All right, so we've got lots of choices here. We'll add a Sox beige. Smokey sounds like a great name. All right. No, I didn't hit enter. Oh, there is Smokey, right? So now we've got a little horse, so we can have that while we code. But you might have noticed there's even a warrior horse down here, right? Oh, the Tennessee Stud's the perfect name, right? There we go. Now they're in love, and they can play, right? They've got fire and so on. You can toss some balls to them, whatever you want. They're completely useless. They do nothing for list formatting or any of your code. I just wanted to show you that. There you go. That's exciting. Now let's take a look at a different extension. Now that's, again, everything I'm showing you here, I'm showing you inside code spaces, but all of this works with Visual Studio Code installed on the desktop as well. Okay. You're right. Let's get rid of you back. Now let's take a look at another extension, right? So we talked about a couple other extensions. So this one I want to talk about is JSONify. This is an extension I put together here. Let's open this guy up and let's just put him in another side window here. Right, so this guy, we're not going to show some of the features it has. Some of the main features it has, though, is you can right-click on an SVG or an HTML file and generate a format directly from it. And in fact, you can keep those live, so you can keep editing the HTML, and it will update the JSON format live as you type. So that's exciting, but I'm not going to even show you that part today, although I have gone over that in a few past demos if you want to check those out on our YouTube channel, or just check out the extension itself. What I wanted to show here is that this stuff can be hard to read, right? So you'll notice this stuff is a JSON file, right? So it's, I'm going to put language in big quotes here, JSON language, right? And it's the idea of it's a property and an attribute, and it's got the squigglies and so on, and VS Code understands that, which is why you get blue here and you get orange here, or whatever your theme decides, right? And that's cool. One of the things JSONify added in its last update, if I enable that, is the idea of syntax recognition, syntax highlighting of an embedded language within JSON. All right, so now we have this idea of horse script. There wasn't an official name that I was aware of, so I got to name it since I made the syntax highlighting stuff, right? So there it is, and in fact, there's even a color theme called Warrior Horse that's included. It's a dark theme that kind of makes that easier, takes advantage of some of the advanced tokenization that is available inside that language. So it makes it a little bit easier to read this. It's still a bit of a mess because it's giant altogether, but yeah, I see the idea is that it starts to make it so I can see, oh, that's the if statements and so on, right? So I can begin to edit this directly. So that's one of the things JSONify is adding, and that's really exciting. All right, so now I mentioned one more extension, right? And that's the SP formatter right there. So this is the VS Code version of it. All right, so we've got the VS Code version here. I've already got that one installed. And what this is going to do is it's going to provide some of that same kind of extended IntelliSense here right inside VS Code, and so on. And that's really helpful that you could do. But the one thing that I really like is you could right click and you could say start a new session, right, with SP Formatter. And normally when you do that on VS Code desktop, that's going to open up a port and a little server on your local host, right? Now we're in code spaces, however, right? So we see this port just highlighted up here. And now I've got this port here on 11232. Exciting. It's always that port. Now, if I want that to show up so that I can edit this content here and have it show up over there, well, I can. So let's get that over there so we can see this a little better. One of the things I need to do in order to make that happen right now is because it's looking on localhost, I need to make this port visibility public. There we go. Very exciting. And now I need to run a little HTTP server locally here. So this is something I'm going to just run out of NPM. Use a bunch of different ones of these. With one that's really easy. You can use this one. It's free. All right, so I've got a little HTTP server. So I'm going to go over my terminal. And I'm going to make sure I've got Node. I use NVS, so let's pick Node. It doesn't matter particularly which version of Node. All right, so now I've got NVS, and I type npx because I already got installed HTTP server. I put that port, right? Well, let's make sure we can actually see what we're talking about. There we go. So what is that port? That is 11232. Right, and one of the nice things about HTTP server is it's going to basically serve a local public folder. I don't have anything in there. And what it's going to do is it provide a fallback. So anything it can't find in my local public folder, it can pull from somewhere else, which is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go copy this URL. We'll click on that little button, the terminal, and I'm going to say -P. That's the fallback. Just press enter. That's going to start up a little server. And what that's going to do is any request for localhost at that port that I don't have locally is going to be forwarded from my code spaces. Wowee! So then that means I can come over here, right? And I can come over and I can say, let's close all that. And let's go to column settings. Let's format this column, right? Advanced mode, because we have this turned on. Let's see if we can get that to hook up. There it is. So you can see that it already pulled it in, right? So I was on a date format. Now this is great, right? We're in two separate windows. So let's take advantage of something that Edge has, right? Which is the split view. So I can do the split view here, and I can pick the tab that already exists. So there we go. So now I've got it right inside one tab. I've got my VS Code spaces here. Let's make that so I can really see it. And I have my preview over here. So I've got the full editing here. So I can even do things like, hey, I like this. This is a really cool format. In fact, it's one of our top formats, right? I can come over here, but I say, like, I don't want to write all of Thursday, right? So I can just backspace and you can say I wrote third, right? And you'll see it updated it right as I was typing it. How cool is that? So the idea is I'm just editing this stuff live, right? I can see that preview happen directly. As long as I don't hit save, no one else is seeing this, right? This is just on my list, previewed temporarily, and I can go forth like this. Say I've got a different one. All I have to do is just start a new session over there, and it should pick up on this other format. Sometimes, there you go. And so I have a different format. So if I wanted to go through and like test out some of these date formats or anything else, this is a really, really easy way to do. So I'm directly in the samples repo, right? I can synchronize those, and I can just browse through these. I can find individual ones, start a new session. I can preview them right here, and I can even edit them, right? So if I say like, yeah, for what is that, July, is that a sunflower? That's a lovely one, but not anymore. July is the month of, we'll say something else. Let's see. Well, a horse, of course. Right, so there we go. We got a horse instead. But the idea is I can edit these directly. I can see the syntax highlighting directly here inside VS Code or inside code spaces as needed. And I can work between those directly as needed. And so far, right now, the only thing I've needed to have running on my local machine is this HTTP server. So what we're going to do is I'll see if I can change that around, put some requests in to make that work a little better for us so we can specify where we want to pull that stuff. But let me know how you're using this stuff. If this stuff is too difficult, if this is hard, all that kind of thing, that'd be great to know. But let's go do a quick review of all that. There we go. Those are the cool sound effects. All right, just to review, there's JSONify. Again, it's got some bunch of other features I did not show in terms of automatic conversion, right? So converting those to SB list formats. So it's got support for full-on inline styles, but it also has for like a style tag and all that, so you can specify classes and so on. And it'll map all those over. It's very, very cool. I like it. There we go. Moving on here. And this is, of course, that syntax highlighting with the horse script. Now, it is set up as an embedded language. So the idea is that it's only extending the JSON language definition so that it recognizes that you switch over to horse script whenever you start a property with that equal sign, right? And then it's going to start doing the tokenization. It does not actually change anything about your file. It's only a display thing in terms of the tokenization. So you're not changing any of your JSON files or anything like that. Don't worry. And the other thing, so it is technically its own language. So if you create a .horse file or a .na file, you can write this horse script directly, should you want to. I don't know what you would do that for, but you can, and that's exciting. All right, so here's that setup, just so everyone can see it, because I went over it really quickly. The idea is this is your kind of standard setup. So if I got VS Code installed on my machine, right, whether it's Windows or Mac, Linux, doesn't matter. I've got VS Code, I've got those two extensions, JSONify and SP Formatter installed, right? I forked the repo or whatever. Right, that's awesome. And then I've got this other SP Formatter Edge extension installed. Boom, I can do all those edits live, and it's exciting, and everything just happens magically. If you wanted to do slightly different setup, which is the GitHub code spaces, right? So this is some details about it. It's free-ish. That's important to note. Right. Generally, if you're just using this for list formatting and you're closing your code space after you're done, and it does shut down automatically, I don't think you're going to run into many problems there. But just keep in mind that potentially, if you're running this all the time because you're doing formats 40 hours a week, well, then maybe, right? And there you go. So notes there about making sure you want to do with HTTP server. And this is that HTTP server. Wowee! They have a turtle logo. That's pretty sweet. And then finally, this is that slightly modified version if you're using code spaces. The only real difference here is that I've got that HTTP server running in the middle to kind of facilitate that stuff here. And then here you go. Here's some exciting links for you. So here's all those links. If David hasn't posted them in the chat yet, shame on David. I'm sure he'll do it any moment now. But check these out. Again, everything I've shown you here is free and available to you. Some of this is definitely advanced scenarios, so please keep that in mind. You do not have to do this to do formatting. You don't have to use any of these tools. They just make your life a little easier. Okay, and that's it for me. Wow.
Wowee! Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I've been trying to share the links in the chat as we go, but whatever I missed, then, it's a load of horse script, I guess, on me. So, we'll get it fixed. But I'm bumped. All right, everybody. Thank you for attending today. Big round of applause to our amazing presenters, Ejaz, Stuart, and Chris. Thank you so, so much. We love all the different ways in which our technology is being used, and we would not know how to do all these cool things if it were not for all of you spending your time with us to share your knowledge. So thank you so, so much. If you'd like to get more collaborative with the community, we've got our official Discord server, so you can tell your kids that you're on Discord and be cool. I think we just hit actually over 2,200 members, so we'll have to update that number, but you can check it out. If you'd like to join, it's absolutely free, ak.ms/community/discord. We'll get that link in the chat for you as well. And of course, we'd love to hear any feedback that you may have for us. If these calls are going good, if there's some improvements you would like, we just ask that you keep it constructive. But even if you've already filled it out and things are still going great, let us know. Love the opportunity to let the management know that we are doing good things with these calls and that they are appreciated. All right, our next call, of course, is going to be in a couple of weeks, but the recording of this call will be available in 24 hours or less on the Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel. You can get access to that by going to ak.ms/community/YouTube. Subscribe. You'll be alerted as soon as it's available, usually sooner than 24 hours, but keep on the lookout for that. We'll have it out for you as soon as possible. You can also follow us on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, for updates at M365PNP. Follow that as well, and updates at LinkedIn at ak.ms/community/li. The next Microsoft 365 and Power Platform bi-weekly call, August 29th, 2 weeks from today. I guess 2 weeks minus 1 hour, right? Because we're already past that. Yeah, anyway, so time is hard. Next Viva Connection SharePoint Framework. Next week, we're going to have Chris back. We're going to have Hugo back. It's going to be a fun time. Get it on your calendar. Get them all on your calendar, ak.ms/community/calls. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. Woo! Woo! Wowee! 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 Bye-bye. Bye-bye.